And now, here's Brendan.
Well, welcome to our second in a run of If You Were Doctor Who Showrunner. Every fan's got an opinion. Sometimes they coalesce, many times they don't. Obviously, we had a great chat with Christy and Divine and Dragon, and of course, he split the crowd, as you will if you share your opinions on Doctor Who. And now, great to see Simon Lydiard, editor of Skaro Fanzine in the 70s, and of course, a friend of the channel, and we're going to hear what he says because he's made a late application, I may say, to be the new showrunner of Doctor Who, and I'm going to be the BBC commissioning editor and consider his application. So thank you for your application, Mr. Lydiard.
You're welcome, and can I let you know that I've been thinking about this subject for decades. And actually, I ran a series of articles in Skaro in the early 1980s about what people would do if they were showrunner. And I actually wrote my opinion at the time. I've updated my opinions, but I've been thinking about this for a long time.
Oh, so this is going to be hot stuff. Right, okay, here we go then. So, Mr. Lydiard, how would you deal with the inheritance of the show that we've got now? Because you may have obviously rehearsed this many times before, but it's now that we're considering your application. And we've just had 2 seasons of Shooty, we've had RTD, blah, blah, blah. We are where we are. So how would you deal with the inheritance of the show? I might throw in Timeless Children, Flux. Fans are very divided at the moment. So how would you deal with that? Would you actually address it or would you ignore it?
I would do what Russell Davies did in his first run as showrunner, which is completely rethink it and decide what to acknowledge and continue and what to ignore. I think the show needs a reset. If you remember when Russell first started, we had no regeneration. We just had the 9th Doctor and he was there, and there'd been a time war. So there was a kind of a backstory to the Doctor, which didn't have continuity hanging over it too heavily. Yeah. So that's what I would do again. I would rethink the format. I think one of the things that some showrunners have successfully done is gradually begin to bring things in terms of the inheritance of the show. What I would not do is write out any of the previous Doctors. So I wouldn't say, oh, Judy wasn't the Doctor, or there wasn't a 14th and 15th Doctor, or Jodie wasn't the Doctor. They were. That happened. But I think what's really important is for a new start. I mentioned what Russell did in his first run. I'll also mention what happened with the 7th season of the classic series of Doctor Who, which was that was a reboot. The Doctor being stranded on Earth with the unit family around him, very, very different to what went before. So I think what you've got to do is distill the essence of Doctor Who and then think, how would I start this again? I haven't worked through everything, but that's what I would want to think about.
Leave the girl. It's the man I want.
We all know in periods of Doctor Who when you just overlook something that was mentioned, like the Doctor Who movie, there was a kiss and all the rest of it, and he's half human, and that's never been really referenced again. But I suppose what I'm asking you as one of the BBC commissioning editors is, have we got to a point now where some of the things that have been seen need to somehow be addressed to right the ship slightly, or would you contest we just don't mention them again?
I think there are some things we don't mention again. I mean, Doctor Who is not Star Trek. Okay, Star Trek, and I love Star Trek, but it takes itself too seriously. This is not the same concept at all. If we want to ignore things, we can. I mean, think about the Braid Morbius Doctors. Okay, at the time, Doctor Who fandom went mad about it. Oh my goodness, you can't have these previous Doctors. We can't have it. And for the rest of the classic series, completely forgotten. Okay, I know in the more recent run they've been reintroduced and indeed even added to, but it just proves that with Doctor Who, you don't have to be rigid in your interpretation of the inheritance. The inheritance is there to be used, changed, do what you like with it. The most important thing about the program is producing something really exciting and engaging, and that it's very well written.
You said we were alone here. Trapped like this, like a sponge beneath the sea. I, Morbius, who once led the High Council of the Time Lords, now reduced to this. Who are you? Where have you come from? Are you one of the Sisterhood?
Okay, now we're getting different opinions on this in our interviews, so this will be an interesting one for us to consider. A quick fire one here, Simon. Would you, when you're the showrunner of Doctor Who, would it be a hard reboot, a soft reboot, or a continuation of what's gone before?
All of those. Generally all of those. Some of those things you go, I'm just never going to do this again. I'm going to forget about it. I mean, I am, as a viewer, I'm disappointed that the Timeless Children wasn't pinned down. I'm disappointed by it. But think about it from a child's perspective. One of the great things about Doctor Who when it's done well, and it's not always done well, is mystery. When Doctor Who started, we didn't even know, well, we still don't know the Doctor's name. Although in a Graham Williams story, we were kind of told what his name was. And again, that was forgotten, okay? So one of the great things about Doctor Who, particularly for younger viewers, is mystery. And I thought the Timeless Children introduced, for a new generation of viewers, a sense of mystery. I wanted it to be resolved, but it wasn't. And I wouldn't go back and resolve it now. I would just not mention it. I wouldn't bother with it. So on that, that's a hard reboot on that, okay? But as I've said, Doctor Who has a huge inheritance. We can choose how to use that inheritance as we wish. It's the most malleable television drama that's ever been created. We do what we like with it.
What would this is your choice. You get one go at casting the Doctor. So what would you like your Doctor to be like? Young, old, male, female? Where would you go with it?
In one sense, I don't think it matters if they're young or old. What matters is if they are doctorish. And what do I mean by that? I mean, look, they're an alien. Okay, you've got to watch this actor playing this character and believe they really could be an alien. So they've got to have something about them which is odd, unusual, quirky. That's what some of the best Doctors have been like. An absolute revelation for me was Matt Smith. If you told me we're going to cast a 26-year-old actor as the Doctor, I'd have thought you were barking. But when you saw Matt Smith, even from his first interview he did to kind of announce his casting, he was bonkers, absolutely bonkers, and you knew he could be the Doctor. So young or old, I don't mind. I actually do have an actor in mind, and that actor is Mark Heap.
Yes.
Mark Heap was in. He was the next door neighbour in Friday Night Dinner.
Yep.
Bonkers in that.
Yes.
But if you want to see even more of what I think he has in him, that means he could play the Doctor. Watch him playing a Doctor in The Green Wing. It was a Channel 4 comedy series. Okay, he was over the top. I wouldn't want him to be as over the top as that if he were playing the Doctor, but he was really odd. Also, by the way, Michelle Gomez was in The Green Wing as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I would cast Mark Heap. He would be my first choice, but I don't mind if the actor is young or old. It is the nature of their character and performance that counts.
Okay, thank you for that. That's interesting. Of course, you would overlook bringing Paul McGann back, because the one argument we get from fans who write to us often at the BBC,
Yeah.
they say that basically, you know, Paul McGann is still young enough. Couldn't we have a run with him? Would you prefer what you've just said to going back over and having a series of Paul McGann?
Yeah, I would. I think the issue with Paul McGann is I love him as the Doctor, right? I think he's brilliant. I think he's superb. I think he was great in that TV movie. You got a couple of stills from The Night of the Doctor there as well, and then from The Power of the Doctor, I think is the top
Yes.
left corner. Brilliant, superb. We acknowledge him. He was the Doctor. And I would not rule out bringing him back or other previous Doctors as guest appearances. I wouldn't mind there being a one-off special of Paul McGann as the Doctor, but something we need to remember, we're not making Doctor Who for the fans. We're making Doctor Who for the general viewing public, particularly younger viewers. It's great if the fans like what you're doing, but we shouldn't let fandom dictate what Doctor Who should be. Paul McGann is very well known as the Doctor to dedicated fans. You ask the casual viewer to name people who've played Doctor Who, he wouldn't be mentioned. I'm not insulting him. I thought he was great. In the public mind, the first person most people think about as the Doctor is Tom Baker. Most people will say Tom Baker. The other Doctors might be mentioned. Paul McGann probably wouldn't be mentioned. So I kind of, as a fan, excuse me, as a fan, I like the idea. As a showrunner, I don't think it works.
Okay then. What's your opinion on what the TARDIS crew would be like in your era of as showrunner? Because we can go with the original when we had 3.
Yeah.
There was a familial connection at the beginning. We can have 1 like Sarah Jane or Joe Grant, male, female, old, young. What's your thinking behind what the point of the TARDIS crew is for your era?
I would probably go for 2 companions, and I almost don't like calling them companions because that belittles the concept. They should be characters. When we've had, I mean, I think a slight danger with having 1 companion is they just become a sidekick.
Yeah.
And they just become a cipher. If you've got a TARDIS crew of 3, you have to write those characters. If you don't, it doesn't work. And I would cite some of the John Nathan Turner era as being like that, when you had Tegan, Nyssa, and Adric. I don't think that worked particularly well, but I don't think it worked particularly well because they weren't written. You've got to write the character. You've got to create real characters of those people who travel with the Doctor. I think it was done well in Jodie Whittaker's time. I think that the people who traveled with her, they were well written and they were good actors. I think that was the case when we had Ian Marter and Liz Sladen together as well. I think they were well written, well acted. And of course, yes, you can go back right to the beginning of Doctor Who with Ian and Barbara and Susan. So I think with 3 principal characters, and they've got to be principal characters, well written and well cast, there's more you can do with them. You can create a more complex story with them, but it has to be incredibly well written. They've got to be genuine characters, not ciphers.
Now, one thing we at the BBC get a lot of criticism for, it's whether the TARDIS crew, the companions, or whatever you want to call them, whether they run the narrative influence the narrative, diminish the Doctor, or whether it should be the Doctor's show. Where do you stand on that?
It's got to be the Doctor's show. The Doctor, and I will say he, because yes, I don't rule out in future casting a female Doctor. I think Jodie was amazing. Okay, and I think the Fugitive Doctor was, my goodness, if we could have a series of Joe Martin, that would be brilliant. That would have been brilliant. But I would cast a male Doctor this time, and it's got to be their show. But as I said, the other people in the TARDIS have got to be characters. They've got to be strong characters. And I think what you can do is have some stories that focus a bit more heavily on one of those other two characters. That's great. But fundamentally, it's got to be the Doctor's show. Having said that, although I think I may have told you before we started that Tom Baker is my favourite Doctor, my goodness, he is the star. Okay. Another of my favourite Doctors, maybe my second favourite, is Patrick Troughton. He was the star, but he was quite subtle. He was in the background, and he was driving the narrative, but very carefully and subtly. And if I was able to cast Mark Heap, if he was available and would take it on, and if you'd accept it, I would angle his character a bit more to the Patrick Troughton, slightly more mysterious and in a pleasant way mercurial.
Both of you came back for a multi-Doctor story, didn't you? The Five Doctors. Yeah. What was that like for you? Because you had a very big role in that. You were, fighting Daleks and in the TARDIS.
Same old.
Oh, was it really the same old in terms of how it was done and?
I'm surprised you say it was a big part. It didn't seem like that to me.
I think so.
Well, they were very clever because the way my contract was designed, it was always at the end of that particular story was always in the middle of a section of the contract, which meant that I couldn't do anything.
Right.
All the options were on their side.
Right.
So even though I was saying, please give me something different to do, each time the script arrived, I feverishly looked through to see if there was anything interesting for Susan to do. And there really wasn't. It was just so repetitive.
Yeah.
People found it entertaining, I'm happy to say, but for me, it was just the same thing. We arrived in the TARDIS. I was told to wait. I never did. I was told to always stay close by them, and I never did. And I always got into trouble, and they got me out of trouble. End of story.
Yeah. So what kind of things was he asking you? Was he asking you kind of personal things or kind of technical things? How was it done in those
about
days?
Bill, actually.
Okay.
Bill was really, really live.
Yeah.
And she was very nice person.
Yes.
A lovely woman.
Yeah.
But she had a backbone of
steel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when she knew she was right about something, she would not be budged, no matter how people were saying. But really, I think it should be, or could be better if it was this way or that. No, we've seen it. We've looked at it from every angle, and that is the way it has to be done. And that was the way it was done. When people were sort of saying no, he absolutely believed in it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And he said, look, it's going to go on forever, with the concept, with the construct. Why should it ever end? Because the Doctor regenerates, and they can go anywhere in the world, in the universe.
Yes.
So there are countless stories to be told. So why should it?
Give us a postcard idea of what your episode 1 could possibly be like. Do we see a regeneration? Do we have a reference to this is Doctor number 22? Do we have is there a scenario you'd like to start with? Just give us a taster.
Yeah. In answer to regeneration Doctor number, no. You start and it's the Doctor. I've mentioned Russell's first run at the Doctor. I love that scene where the Doctor just bursts in and says, I think he says something like, hello, I'm the Doctor, run for your life. That's you're right in it. You're right in it. So I wouldn't have a regeneration. You could probably hold that as an idea that you go back to later on to think about talking about it, or maybe even potentially showing it. But I wouldn't do that in the first episode. I wouldn't talk about which Doctor number he was, partly because we don't know. We don't know which Doctor it is, which regeneration it is. That will be part of the mystery I'd like to bring back into it.
Yeah.
I'd like the first episode to be a very, very, very strong story. I would spend a little bit of time at re-establishing some of the concepts of Doctor Who, but not too much. I'd like it to be, not to denigrate it, but I like to be an ordinary episode of Doctor Who. You're back in it. You're just back into Doctor Who. He's the Doctor. Whether or not you bring in that episode to introduce the companions, maybe, or maybe he's already with one of them and another one comes in part way through. And again, referencing back to Russell's first time, the Time War had happened. We hadn't seen it. So I'd like there to be an idea that we're just joining the Doctor at some point through his life and we're straight into the action.
Stage. Oh, this way.
What is it?
A double cross. Gets more interesting by the minute.
Okay, tone, style, and format of the series. So you've seen every era. Let's just say the budget we can fix whatever you want. Would you like a series of specials? Would you like 28 episodes of 30 minutes? What would you like?
I think what some of us grew up with, the 25-minute episodes with cliffhangers, I think they were wonderful. I am not sure they work anymore in today's television environment. The standard format for drama series now is 50-minute episodes. I think we need to have a discussion about whether we're making this program primarily for broadcast or primarily for streaming, and that may form part of the discussion about budget and funding. If we're making it for broadcast, it's 50-minute episodes. If we're making it for streaming, I'd like the ability to vary the length of the episodes according to the content of the story. So I'd be in those circumstances, I'd be unafraid to make a 37-minute episode or a 62-minute episode. So I think we need to agree on what the funding is and whether we're making it primarily for broadcast or streaming. And the number of episodes in a season also comes into that discussion. If we're making it for broadcast, I know some series recently have been 8 episodes. I'd like to do more. I'd like to do 13, which it wasn't that many years ago.
Yeah.
But as a minimum, if we're making it for broadcast, I'd like to make 10. If we're making it for streaming, I definitely would go for 13. The tone and style. I think the tone and style needs to vary according to the story. But having said that, I want this to be scarier than it's been for years. I want it to be darker than it's been for years. I think we can be slightly afraid that because we think we're making it for a predominantly young audience, that it shouldn't be scary. Well, I grew up with Genesis, the Daleks, Deadly Assassin, Ark in Space. My goodness, they were scary. They got criticism at the time, but one of the thrills for children of watching Doctor Who is being scared. It should be scary. And we should also be unafraid to do completely different format episodes when we want to. In terms of style, do you want to talk about music at this stage, or was that a
No, I mean, this is what I mean, because we've, as the BBC, we're now slightly torn because Russell T Davies has worked for us for quite a long time on and off, and he's guided us on what Doctor Who should be.
Yeah.
And so and then we hear what the fans say sometimes. And so we're slightly confused, as in breaking the fourth wall, musical episode, whether you go for comedy, because Russell T Davies has argued with us that one week you can do a comedic episode, then you can do... we understand that you used to have different genres, so to speak, but what would you like to do with it?
Well, definitely different genres. I am not keen. I am not so. I mean, look, the comedy should be inside the drama. I don't want to make comedy episodes per se. We have got an example of when it was done very, very well in classic Doctor Who, which is City of Death, but that was unusual. So I would have the comedy inside the drama. I wouldn't do comedy episodes, not to criticize what Russell did. I wouldn't do musicals, and that's just me. To me, it doesn't feel like Doctor Who, so I wouldn't do that. One of the things I would like to do is, in relation to the format, move away from the idea that you almost always have to tell a story in one episode. I'd like some stories to have time to breathe. Now, I talked about the difference of doing it for broadcast and doing it for streaming. If you're doing it for streaming, you could let the episode run as long as you need to tell the story. If you're doing it for broadcast, I would like some 2 or 3 part stories. What I also would quite like is, and interestingly, I talked about this with Terence Dix a long time ago. A couple of my favorite stories were Horror Fang Rock.
This creature can climb sheer walls.
Oh. Not only can it climb sheer walls, it's amphibious. It has some affinity with electricity and a technological ability to adapt its environment.
Are you following me?
No. It likes the cold. But heat might be a method of defense.
He said the boiler pressure has fallen and the siren will not sound.
Oh, no! Get her out of here!
Like the others?
Yes. Rigor mortis. He's been dead for hours.
But that is not possible. He was in his room.
Not Reuben.
But he was. I saw him.
The chameleon factor. Sometimes called lycanthropy. Leela, I've made a terrible mistake. I thought I'd lock the enemy out. Instead, I've locked it in. With us.
And Talons of Wen Chiang. And I said to Terence, when you were script editor, you set Doctor Who on Earth. Sort of present day, though maybe a little bit in the future. Why don't we do a season in Victorian or Edwardian Britain? Now, he said, that's a rubbish idea, all right? And actually, it probably is a rubbish idea to do an entire season in a particular time period. But why not do 2 or 3 stories running in a particular time period?
Yeah.
And also relating to style, a big iconic thing about Doctor Who is the theme music. And there have been many, it's always the same tune, kind of, but there have been many different versions of it. I adore the original Ron Grainer, Delia Derbyshire version and the various versions of that ran through the series. I think there have been great versions of it. I really like Segan Akinola's version of it. I think it's really good. What I would like to do is try to either remix or recreate the original theme tune and make it even bolder. Yeah, it's a big, bold introductory theme tune. I'd like my theme tune to sound like the original theme tune, but huge.
Yeah.
And also, thinking about incidental music, I would not use the same composer all the time. I might probably have a go-to composer, but one of the things I would like to do is to have the theme music appropriate for the style and subject of each episode.
Right.
So you might do an episode in the Middle Ages and you'd have kind of lute music and the kind of the instruments at the time. You might have a high concept science fiction story, and I see no reason why we shouldn't do something like the Radiophonic Workshop again.
Yeah.
I'd vary it.
Okay. Just a last little thing. You might be able to answer it in a sentence. We've heard what you've said about the series structure. So if you said give the story time to breathe and maybe 2 or 3 episodes sometimes, are you saying we bring back that idea of the cliffhanger?
Yes.
Predictable as ever, Doctor.
Right. Should it be a British show or a global show in its vibe?
Yes. The reason it's a global show is it's a British show.
Okay.
So I think Doctor Who's charm to an international audience is that it's a British show. It is kind of grounded in that H.G. Wells, John Wyndham style of science fiction. Well, at least that's how it initially started. And I think it has a very British vibe. I've got no problem with setting stories in different countries at all. It is also, let's remember, we are the British Broadcasting Corporation. We are here to showcase British culture. So I would make it fundamentally as a British show, which I think appeals to a global audience.
Okay, thank you for that one. You'll get a sense that some of these are now a bit more quick fire. I think you've answered this one, but I'll just get clarity on it. Earthbound or outer space?
Yes. Again, both.
On the Earthbound one, we've come in for an awful lot of criticism as the BBC in the last few years with New Who from the critics, basically saying things like it's too contemporary regarding its all current issues and all the rest of it. So when you say Earthbound, you've mentioned Victorian England, for example. Do you think we should play safer regarding Earthbound stories, that we go either future or historical rather than get bogged down in current politics?
I think that actually we could do either. But look, I do think one of the anchors of Doctor Who is those characters that travel with the Doctor. So I think they've got to be relatable to a current audience. So I would probably choose contemporary characters, and therefore when we go to Earth, when we kind of like take them back to Earth for stories, probably present day. But we could experiment with someone from, one great thing to experiment with Doctor Who now is to have 2 companions from the 1960s.
Lucky there was no fog. I'd never have found this.
I suppose we are doing the right thing, aren't we?
how would that go down? And they would be seeing the TARDIS and the future, and we would also be giving a nod to Doctor Who's origins and the culture of the time. Having thought about it, yeah, that's what I would do. I'd have 2 companions from the 1960s.
Okay, thank you. Modern parallels to Doctor Who. So basically, this one is just when we're trying to work out whether it's your pitch we're going to go with. So it's just like, is there any, in how you would like to make the program, is there a program out there already that you'd like us to have touches of? Because every time we talk to Russell T Davies, he'd say, it'd be a bit like Buffy. It'll be a bit like Strange New Worlds or Stranger Things. So can you, are there any kind of examples you could throw at us and say, well, it'll be a bit of that, a bit of that?
I want Doctor Who to be a lot like Doctor Who. It's no other television program. So I don't really see particular parallels. I've mentioned Star Trek. It shouldn't be anything like Star Trek. Okay. There is no show like Doctor Who. You might do an occasion like mirrors, something that you might see in another science fiction or drama series, but I'm not looking for inspiration from other programs. My inspiration is Doctor Who.
Okay, thank you for that. TV shows it could emulate, we've done that one, so to speak. Is it possible you can now, in this job interview, sell your show in a line or a tagline, you know, a vibe? You know, is there any way you can sell it to us in just a snapshot?
It's an adventure in space and time. What could be better than that? It takes you where no other television program will take you.
Thank you. And the last one is to say thank you for making the application and showing interest in this 62-year-old program. We are a bit confused as the BBC at the moment as to where we want to take it. So thank you for your application and thank you for your clarity. It is very clear from what you've been saying to us here, you have been thinking about this for a very long time. And as an aside, I'd love to see one day some of your Skaro stuff about this kind of nature of the series at which you referred to. Love it.
I will scan the articles and share them with you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Lydiard. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
1,
Good.
2,
Fine.
Ah!
Quiet, Jamie. What's been happening?
Steady at 4.
Oh, no.
5,
Good.
6.
Fine. I don't want to blow the fluid links again.
Just the most peculiar dream. There was this big white horse with a horn. He was charging straight towards me.
Night, really, Jamie, your imagination is... Jamie, look.
Doctor?
Quiet, Jamie, quiet. That sound, that vibration, it's alien.
I can...
Don't seem to be able to concentrate. Wait, both of you, concentrate on something.
I can't!
Oh, it's getting stronger. 3! Oh, dragging. Concentrate, both of you! It's too powerful. I will fight!
Jamie, the doctor!